Oh, make sure everything is working like it should. Hmm. Okay. Dolphins fans, what's happening? Thanks for stepping in. Those of you who do show up, I appreciate you, each and every one of you for coming in here and listening to me yap about this team here. These wonderful, confused, maybe slightly cursed Miami Dolphins. I've got this whole plan here, and I'm just gonna get started on it in a few minutes here. I guess OTA dates and some preseason dates have been set for Miami. I'll put a video out probably today or tomorrow, late tonight or tomorrow morning, covering all of that. I don't really have the dates right this second. I'll go get them though, and I'll have them up probably in a short as soon as I get a chance. That'll be first on the list of things to do. We've got, man, it is gnarly right now out here. Those of you that don't know, I'm from North Pole, Alaska, and right now it's almost 60 degrees outside, and all the snow and ice is melting so fast that it's like a big slush cup outside, and it's nasty. This is the worst time of year in Alaska. Everything is just so ugly, just gross. I don't even want to be outside right now. But yeah, guess nicer weather down in the lower 48 unless you're in the tornado belt right now. I guess there's some bad weather there. So let's see. I have got sticky notes everywhere to cover what we're going to talk about today. Like 20 of them, just everywhere. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm in order here on what I wanted to talk about. So it keeps things nice. Obviously, I am not a fan of technology. And any chance I get to use a bunch of stupid sticky notes, I'm on it. That's what I do. I love sticky notes. And I cannot wait for this season to start. I mean, even if, games don't always go the way we want, I miss football. And I'll be so happy once it starts up again. NFL and college. UFL starts this week, so that's good. We get something to watch. I don't know how many of you guys actually watch the UFL, but I do. It's entertaining. And there's some good players in the UFL, and I like some of the rule sets they have. It's entertaining. It's just a little different. But of course, I'm also of the type that watches Canadian Football League as well. Any chance I get to watch football, I'm watching it, so it doesn't really matter. I'll even go watch some high school football around here once that starts up. Let's see. And I'm not going to be involved in coaching at any level this year, so I can spend my time focusing directly on this channel, which is going to be different for me. So, let's see here. All right. With that. Okay. Yeah, man, Thunder look good. And my team ain't going to be making the playoffs, I don't think. I mean, they're on the bubble, but they're just not playing well this year. I'm a Suns fan. Ugh, not good this year. But I'll still watch the playoffs. Playoffs is playoffs. I don't care what sport it is. NFL, NBA, NHL, it doesn't matter. In Major League Baseball, of course, I mean, I watch baseball year-round. I love baseball almost as much as I love football. How you doing today, Abel? Man. Okay. All right. So, here's what I'm going to be doing today. Everybody complaining. Everybody saying we have to do something. We have to do something to fix this. This is a horrible situation that we're in as a team. And I don't see any way out of it. We're screwed. We're going to have a losing season. It's over. Might as well chalk us up to last place in the AFC East right now. I can't. I'm not of that mindset. So I'm going to give a plan. Not complaining. I'm not going to talk about why I'm not feeling that way either. But I am going to offer a plan. And the way I'm playing this game is I'm going to start out by saying Chris Grier gets fired 20 minutes ago, and I'm sitting here in my chair doing this live stream, and they asked me to be the general manager of the Miami Dolphins on a trial run for this year. A trial run with me, little old me, as the general manager for this team. Unreal. How am I going to do that? Well, I got a plan, and I'm going to go through it. Everything's good here, man. Like I said, I got a sister in the tornado belt. She lives in Tennessee right now, and they're having some gnarly weather. They just lost power down there, and weather's kind of sketch for them, so I'm praying for them. Other than that, I'm great. I'm doing well. I can't complain about anything. I mean, work is work. I work for a living, so as soon as I'm off of work, I'm feeling better. The intermittent fasting is going well. I'm starting to feel a little more normal during the non-eating hours, and as a big old fat guy, I'm starting to feel a little better, getting some energy going, and it's a good feeling. So I'm doing well. I'm doing well, and I've had this whole plan on my mind for 3 or 4 days, and I just felt like I was gonna make a video about all this. I just felt like this would be better because then, anybody wants to sit and listen, they can interact with me while I'm doing this. But what I want to do is I want to say, okay, I'm the general manager. Just got hired. Hey, we've got some issues. Let's see if you can fix this, Mr. Dirk. I say, okay, let me get started. And before the draft and before everything else, I want to talk about what we need. Now, there are some depth pieces that we need, but I'm not really talking about depth pieces. I'm talking about things that we need to get going with this team. The first move is I'm making my list of needs. And not the needs that everybody thinks we need, the needs that we actually have. And so that's a really simple list. The needs we actually have. First, step 1 is needs. We need 2 defensive tackles. Now, these are not depth pieces. These are people that could be in the starting rotation or can contribute heavily. So we need 2 defensive tackles, 2 offensive guards, a safety, and a cornerback. That's what we need. That's 6 players. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the first thing I would do before the draft. Before the draft. So I'm not even talking about draft right now. I would go into free agency and I would start hunting for 2 positions. Those 2 positions that I'm hunting for in the draft is offensive guard. In free agency is offensive guard and safety. Well, why safety? Well, because we have other needs that are a little more definitive in the draft, and in order to do that correctly, we have to do this first. I'd look into free agency, and I'd be looking at 5 players right off the bat, but I have my eyeball on really just 3. So let's talk about safeties first. I would go in to free agency, and I would talk to these 3 players. I would talk to Justin Simmons, Julian Blackmon, and Jordan Whitehead. Now, those 3 players, there is one that catches my eye and that I think would be an absolute fantastic fit for this team, this scheme, and this coaching staff. But I'm going to mention all of them. Justin Simmons from Atlanta. He's a 9-year veteran, 31 years old, and his last contract was $7.5 million annual. Now, that's not actually what he makes every year. It's just an annual estimate, but that's an average. That's about what he was making, $7.5 million. Jordan Whitehead from Tampa Bay, 7 years in the league. He's 28 years old, and his last contract was $3.7 million. The other one, Julian Blackmon from the Colts, 5 years in the league, 26 years old. His last contract was $3.7 million. Now, the player that I would have my eye on immediately and that I know would sign, because number one, the Colts are not going to be giving him a contract. They're not. He's not as much of a scheme fit for Indianapolis as he is for Miami. He is perfect for Miami. Now, if we could pick up Julian Blackmon, I would instantly feel better about our safety room. I don't feel horrible about the safety room right now. But if we had Julian Blackmon on this team, we could sign him for a $4 million contract. And I'm not saying that's a lowball offer. That's probably all he wants. He just needs a little bit of money. $4 million isn't that much. Call it 6 just to call it safe, okay? So keep that in mind. Let's say I offer Julian Blackmon $6 million on a 1-year contract. A prove-it contract. Let's try it out and see how you work, okay? $6 million for Julian Blackmon. Let's just assume that he takes that $6 million contract. Now, that is an exaggeration on what you would probably have to pay him to be on this team. But we're going to call it $6 million to overbid just to make sure that we're in the right place. Oh, yeah. We'll get to the cuts. Just hang on. $6 million. Like I said, I'll just say it right now. If I'm GM, I'm not going to say I'm going to cut Liam Eichenberg immediately. What I am going to do is I'm going to tell him he is not going to be a starter. Absolutely no way. Now, since they've already signed him to that contract, I can't really go back on that. But I will tell him he's not going to be a starter, and he's going to be making his money sitting on the bench or rotating in with players when they need a break or if they get hurt. So, like I said, I'm going to be signing Julian Blackmon to a 1-year contract for $6 million. Now, that leaves us with plenty of room. Keep in mind, we have about $22 million right now in the cap. Okay? I just spent $6 million. So that puts us at $16 million. Okay? 16 mil. Now, Julian Blackmon signed as a safety. That helps us out huge. He's a good player, number one. He's a great fit for this scheme. And I'm telling you, this would make, and he would start for sure. But this would take a lot of stress off of the draft. And it would fill a desperate need that we have. Now, if we had him, Ashton Davis, and Iffy, that would make a decent starting safety rotation along with the other players we have. I would feel much better about our safety room with Julian Blackmon on our team. Also, Jordan Whitehead would sign probably for about the same amount of money, and he's another good player, and he would be a good scheme fit as well. So those are the top two safeties that I would look at in free agency to sign. Justin Simmons, he is a good safety. I'm not saying that. However, he's 31 years old. 31 years old. And his last contract was $7.5 million. So we would have to pay roughly, a good amount more to sign Justin Simmons, because he's probably going to want more than $7.5 million a year to take a contract. So something to think about there. I would go Julian Blackmon from the Colts for $6 million. Likely, it would only take $4.5 million to get him under contract for a year. That's not bad. Okay? But like I said, I'm figuring $6 million. Now we're at $16 million. This is where I would go look at guards in free agency. There are still the 2 guards that I have been wanting since free agency started, sitting there waiting. Keep in mind, these 3, including Julian Blackmon for the safety list, and these 2 guards that I'm about to mention, these 3 players would be drastic, definitive, and immediate improvements on what we have. This isn't they'll be about the same, or they might not be good. No. These will be massive and drastic improvements over what we have at these positions. So knowing that and knowing how easily this could be fixed, I mean, come on. This isn't that bad. Now, here we go. Will Hernandez from Arizona. He just finished off his knee injury. He is recovered. Beyond the knee injury, the only injury he's had in his 6 years in the league. 6 years in the league, Will Hernandez from Arizona, the guard, has only had COVID and a strained pec muscle that he played through. That's the only injuries this man has had in 6 years. He's young. He's 29 years old. He's not even 30 yet. And his last contract was $4.5 million. Now, I would bet that he would sign for $3 to $4 million because he got hurt last year, and he's going to probably have to prove that he can stay healthy. So let's say we offer him $4.5 million, okay? Roughly the same contract he was under. He would take that, guaranteed. These aren't small amounts of money. This is something that he would jump on, especially on a prove-it contract for 1 year. So if we signed Will Hernandez, massive improvement at guard from what we have, which is almost nothing. What? Liam Eichenberg? These two signings that I'm talking about now with Will Hernandez and this next person, these are the insurance players that will keep us from having to have Liam Eichenberg falling out from underneath his feet while trying to hold a block. So Will Hernandez, say $4.5 million. That puts us at $11.5 million left. Okay? $11.5 million left. And this is without any other finagling on our cap space. So, say we sign Will Hernandez for 4.5. The next one, Dalton Risner. I have been clamoring for us to sign Dalton Risner it's been over a year. I wanted to sign him last year as soon as the season ended. Dalton Risner would be a massive improvement as well at guard. Now, he's from Minnesota. He's 29 years old, just like Will Hernandez. 6 years of experience in the league. And his last contract was $2.4 million for 1 year. He would sign for a $3 to $4 million contract. Let's call it 3.5. Okay? 3.5 for Dalton Risner. $3.5 million. This is all jumps and improvements on their previous contracts. Will Hernandez is special because he was injured, but the reason since he's injured, that's the reason why he'll take a contract roughly the same at 4.5. Dalton Risner, say $3.5 million. That's a $1 million improvement on what he was getting paid, and he is a massive improvement on that. That would put us at $7 million left. That would give us 2 starting caliber guards. That would give us 1 starting caliber safety. And that would take, just imagine if we didn't have to go, if we knew we had 2 guards on top of Daniels. Imagine if we had those 2 guards, Risner and Hernandez. And imagine if we had Julian Blackmon. I did those 3 moves with $14 million. $14 million. And on, I think it was on Big C's stream, I was a commenter, and I said that I could solve our problems for $15 million or less. So $14 million. Yeah, $14 million. I solved our issues. A big chunk of it without even going to the draft. So that leaves us with $7 million, and we need roughly $6 million to sign our draft picks. If we kept every single draft pick, we'd need $6 million. That would leave us with about $1 million going into the draft, with us setting aside enough to do signing of our free agent or our draft class. So if I did that, if I signed those 2 guards and that safety, that would leave us with needs of, like I said, not depth pieces, not practice bodies, but that would leave us with the needs of cornerback and defensive tackle. 2 defensive tackles and a cornerback. The reason I didn't go defensive tackle in free agency is because there's just not a lot there in free agency. I have a feeling that one of our weaker spots on this team is going to be interior defensive line this year, even if we're doing exactly what I'm suggesting. However, this gives us a chance to do something about the defensive tackle needs. If we had offensive guard and safety needs going into the draft, we would not be able to cover that and defensive tackles properly. We'd be able to pick some defensive tackles, but we wouldn't be able to get any that would actually make a difference. Doing this, getting 2 offensive guards and our safety in free agency before the draft would free us up to do what I'm about to talk about. Going into the draft. This is where things get a little tricky and iffy because we can't how am I going to say this? We can't be sure what's going to happen. So at this point, what I can do is kind of give you some ideas on players that are going to be available around that portion of the draft. And it's not as complicated as it looks. So for the draft, we have, what did I do with it? There we go. If we did what I said, get those 2 guards and that safety, Julian Blackmon, Dalton Risner, and Will Hernandez, if we get those 3 players before the draft, we could very, very simply, I'll put it as simply as possible, we could get 2 quality, heavily contributing defensive tackles and 1 cornerback in the first 3 rounds of the draft. So I need 3 rounds in the draft. The first round, the second round, and the third. That would be our 13th, our 48th, and our 98th pick. So with that 13th, 48th, and 98th pick, how are we going to do this? Well, we have some options. Let's look at this. For the 13th pick, if Will Johnson is available, you take him, immediately solving the cornerback option. Instead of Will Johnson, we all know these players. Will Johnson from Michigan, most people know who this is. You have another couple of options at cornerback with that 13th pick if they decide to go for the 13th pick. If they do, they could do Will Johnson from Michigan. You could go Jahdae Barron from Texas, or you could even grab Trey Amos from Ole Miss. Now, Trey Amos, I like him. He's angry. He's a fighter. And like I said, the things we need right now are young, angry, pissed off teenager type attitudes. That's what we need. We need fighters. We need people who ain't going to quit. People are going to take a lick and get punched in the mouth, get up, and give one back. That's what we need. Trey Amos fits that bill. And so does Jahdae Barron and Will Johnson as well. They're all of that proper mindset and attitude, and that's why I like it. So you can't really go wrong. Will Johnson, Jahdae Barron, or Trey Amos with that 13th pick from cornerback. Or you could look defensive tackle in that first round, that 13th pick. You could go Kenneth Grant from Michigan. You could go Derek Harmon from Oregon. And Derek Harmon's interesting. We all know the deal with Kenneth Grant, but Derek Harmon, he's a beast. You want to talk about a defensive tackle with some push power and some strength, that's Derek Harmon. And I'm surprised not many people talk about him as much as I would expect. I would expect a lot more talk about Derek Harmon. But that 13th pick, if we're trying to solve the issue of cornerback and defensive tackle, since I've already solved the issue of guards and safeties before the draft started, if you're looking that direction for defensive tackle, you could go Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, or, now this is the one I like. This is my favorite defensive tackle in the draft, and I'll explain why. I'll go ahead and get into that. Walter Nolan. Is he huge? Not as huge as some of these other guys on the list, but he can play. He can play. beyond him being able to play, he can play any technique up and down that defensive line. He can play the 0 technique all the way to the 5 technique. And not only can he play it, he can play it at an extremely high level. This man has got football smarts written all over him. His brain bleeds football. Walter Nolan is probably the most gifted, mentally gifted type of person for a defensive tackle that I've ever seen. The man is smart. He's strong. He's got power. He's fast. His first step is incredible. For a defensive tackle, he is lightning quick. I think that if we had a chance to get Walter Nolan, say Kenneth Grant's gone, and say Will Johnson, the cornerback, is gone already, I think looking at Walter Nolan would be a huge benefit to Miami. So, with that 13th pick, you could go for a cornerback, Will Johnson, Jahdae Barron, Trey Amos. Or you could use that 13th pick on Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, or Walter Nolan. All would be an acceptable first-round draft pick for Miami. Now, here's the next bit. I said we needed 2 defensive tackles and 1 cornerback in this draft, not just space fillers, not just contributors, heavy contributors / starters. And this is why I said give me the first 3 rounds of the draft and free agency before the draft, and I'll solve our issues. I've worked out the guards. I've worked out the safeties. We're working on cornerback and defensive tackle in the draft. That first round pick has got to be one of those 6 players for cornerback or defensive tackle. One of those 6 players. Whatever that ends up being, you cross that off the list and look for the other 2 options that we have. We need 2 defensive tackles and 1 cornerback in this draft in the first 3 rounds. Have to have it. I'm not going completely by team need here. These players are likely going to be BPA on top of our team needs. And this goes into what I've been saying for the last month, saying that this draft is going to heavily line up or heavily align with our team needs. So we're not going to have to go crazy and reach down for players that we want, because they're going to be close to best player available, if not best. So we've looked at the 13th draft. Let's look, or 13th pick. Let's look at the 48th. For the 48th pick, if we decide to look at defensive tackles availability on that 48th pick, you have Tyleik Williams from Ohio State. You have Darius Alexander from Toledo, and I like Darius Alexander. And you have Alfred Collins from Texas. Those 3 tackles interest me heavily at the 48th pick. This is also assuming that we don't do any trades for draft picks. I'm not even going to address that because there's so many variables there. So many different things could happen. You can't predict that kind of thing. But what I can do is talk about this. So for that 48th pick, I said Tyleik Williams, he from Ohio State, Darius Alexander from Toledo, or Alfred Collins from Texas. All 3 of those players would be heavy contributors, if not starters, as long as they don't get hurt and they can play like they should. Now, the other part of this 48th pick would be for a cornerback. And this could be the way to go, is to take the cornerback at the 48th pick. You have 2 really, really good options here, okay? You have Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame and Azariah Thomas from Florida State. I don't know too much about Azariah Thomas, but I do know that he's supposed to be a scheme fit, and he's supposed to have a lot of good outside the numbers type coverage. So we'll see. I'm going to look more into him, but either one of these players could help us at cornerback immensely. And keep in mind, this is a need that we have, but we do have a good supporting cast. And this could be a player that could just rotate in and out, but as long as he's a heavy contributor, that's all we really need. Everybody's like, we need a lockdown corner. I respectfully disagree. We need someone who can play and improve, but we don't need to definitely spend our first draft pick in the 13th round on a cornerback. There are other cornerbacks available. You could also look to the 98th pick. That's the third round pick. We have Jacob Parrish at Kansas State, Dorian Strong from Virginia Tech, and Kobe Bryant from Kansas. All three of those players pique my interest at the 98th pick. For the 98th pick for defensive tackle, we have 3 more names. And these players do get talked about, so this should be no surprise. Number 98 for defensive tackle in the draft, 98th pick. You could go C.J. West. These are all players that are going to be available around these spots. C.J. West out of Indiana, Ty Robinson out of Nebraska, and Jordan Phillips out of Maryland. There are options, is my point. And that's how I would work that. If we did that, our first 3 rounds would cover the immediate and definite needs that this team has. And if we did that, that would give us 7 draft picks to go pure and 100% unadulterated BPA. That would give us 2 fourths, 2 fifths, and 3 sevenths. That would be the 115th pick, the 135th pick, the 150th pick, the 156th pick, the 226th pick, the 233rd, and the 252nd pick. That's a lot of picks to be able to just purely drop BPA. And we could do that if I was the GM. Plus, I think I'm way better looking than Chris Greer. Oh, man. Could you imagine a GM running around in the locker room asking everybody for their signatures? Can I get your autograph, man? But the way we're looking at this, I mean, it's possible. That's my point, guys. It's not impossible. This isn't the hopeless situation that a lot of people would like you to believe, right? We have the ability to make this better. And I really think that the best way to do that is to go for guards and a safety, 2 guards and a safety in free agency, and give us that ability to go into the draft just needing 3 players to contribute, 2 defensive tackles and a cornerback. We do that in the first 3 rounds, and we wind up with a pretty decent opportunity to go BPA for 7 picks in the draft. It's doable, guys. Is it the easiest? No, but it's not incredibly difficult either. And those free agency signings, those are not impossible things to work out. Those are not undoable amounts of money. And I did it and saved more than enough money for our draft picks. I saved enough to sign them. So it's not hard. It's just a matter of, is he going to do what he's supposed to do? Is Greer going to actually go out and get the things we need? Is he going to do that? I don't know. I don't know, guys. I just don't know. But that's a pretty simple plan. That's 6 moves to solve our four needs. 6 moves, 3 free agent signings, and 3 drafts in the first 3 rounds of the pick, or first 3 rounds of the draft. 3 picks and 3 free agents. We're talking not a lot of money. We're talking staying under the cap. We're talking saving enough money to sign our draft picks when we do that. It doesn't get any better than this. For the situation we're in, this is how we do it. And I'm telling you, if we go into the regular season with an offensive line with those 2 guards and James Daniels, Dalton Risner and Will Hernandez, we're sitting pretty. We're sitting pretty, ready to go. And Liam Eichenberg doesn't start. he becomes a depth piece and a rotational player if needed. And if things work out the way I think they will, with doing that, cut him as soon as you can. As soon as it makes sense financially. This isn't that bad. I would be very encouraged with our offensive line if we went in looking at that for our guard situation. Dalton Risner, Will Hernandez, and James Daniels. And then if one of them gets hurt, you have one of the other three to jump in and help cover. I don't know. If you're seeing this, if you're watching this, whenever you do watch it, if you watch it later, comment and tell me what you think. Do you think that these players would be a good fit? I do. I think they'll be a fantastic fit. I think it would solve our issues. I think it would be financially responsible to go this route. And I think it's the best we could possibly prepare for going into the draft and with the players available. Drafting for cornerback and defensive tackle in those first 3 rounds is extremely possible, and it darn near lines up with BPA. You could even leave it open. What's the best player available in the 13th pick when it gets to us? Is it a defensive tackle or is it a cornerback? I guarantee you, Will Johnson and Kenneth Grant, if they're both available at 13, it's a crapshoot. Take whatever one you want. This isn't the end of the world. This is doable, guys. I am GM of the year solving this huge problem that a lot of fans seem to think we have. It's a different situation than what we're used to. It's not a lot of huge name players. It's not as confusing as everybody's making it out to be. This is really simple. We need 2 tackles for defense. We need a cornerback, we need a safety, and we need 2 offensive guards. I just solved our entire needs list. Once again, that's not including rotational players, depth pieces. These are players we can find anywhere we want in the back alley before the game. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about practice squad. I'm talking about contributors, heavy contributors, people that are going to be playing in these games that we're going to be counting on to do their jobs. Will Hernandez got a bum deal. He hurt his knee. That's like his first real serious injury other than COVID. He would sign for nothing because he knows he's got to prove it. He would know. Dalton Risner, he's good. He's not great, but he is a massive improvement over anything we've had at guard in a while. And he's definitely better than Liam Eichenberg. Dalton Risner and Will Hernandez, sign them in free agency. Chris Greer, watch my podcast. Sign them. Holy cow, just sign them. I guarantee you that would be a huge help going into the draft, knowing that we don't have to absolutely sign somebody or pick somebody in those first 3 rounds, and then we can focus on defensive tackle and cornerback in the draft with those first 3 picks, because we need 2 defensive tackles. Have to have it. We need 2 contributors. We can get that and a cornerback that contributes right off the bat in the draft. First 3 draft picks, done. Problem freaking solved. How great would it be if we did this and then we had the 4th round, the 5th round, and the 7th round to go BPA 100%? Oh, I want that to happen so bad. Hopefully, the way I described all this is understandable. Everybody can follow what I did. If you missed the beginning of the program, or if you're looking at this later, just make sure to listen to the whole thing and then tell me what you think. Tell me what you would do as general manager. If you were made general manager right now, can't change what's been done, but you can start making changes right now to make things better, what would you do? This is what I would do. What I've just spent the last 45 minutes talking about. That's what I would do. And I really think it's the best way to go. Looking at availability in free agency and availability and the big board on the draft, this seems like the easiest, best, and most financially responsible way to go about this. And I'm just sitting here looking like all the way across my desk. I have just tons of friggin' sticky notes just everywhere. All this stuff. Just, I mean... just, they're everywhere. I'm telling you, it took me... I've been thinking about it for a few days, about how I would actually go about this, because I just got so tired of everybody complaining and complaining and complaining, and nobody really proposing a complete solution to this. So that's what I did. I went through everything. I covered the money. I covered the draft. I covered free agency before the draft. This is the way to go. There's still a few players you could restructure, not Tua. Do not restructure Tua right now. I'm not saying I don't like Tua. I do like Tua. I actually think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's, elite. But I think he's a good quarterback. I think we can win with him. And I think that if we give him a proper offensive line, that would protect him for more than, 1.87 seconds. I think it would be a good thing for him, along with the team. I think having an offensive line that could block for the runs would help everyone. I think it would cause defenses to have to think twice before they queue up on short passes, because that's all we can do. Because they know that we can't mitigate pass rush without throwing a bunch of screens. So all they do is queue up on the outside and wait for the screens to show up. It's unreal how simple this is. We can fix these problems very easily. That suggestion I had these first 45 minutes of the stream, there's your suggestion. Cheers. That's what I would do. I also think that, between that and the fact that we signed Westbrook Ikine to the wide receiver room, I think that's a huge addition for us, and I don't think people understand how important that is for this team. That is a huge signing, and it's gonna make us dividends this year. He has the ability to stretch up top, to go vertical. And since he can do that, guess who we can slide down into the slot, where he is absolutely most successful. Everybody knows it. He has the most success when he is in the slot. Who's that player? Everybody likes to think of him as the vertical stretcher, but the man I'm talking about has the absolute most success from the slot. If you go back and look at the times when he's in the slot, he is so productive. It's Tyreek Hill. Mr. Troll himself, Tyreek Hill. We're going to put him in the slot this year. I guarantee it. And when we do, just watch the fireworks. Especially if we can get those couple guards that I suggested we get in free agency. For pennies on the dollar. I'm telling you, it's the way to go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not super simple, but it is doable. It's not ideal, but it's better than what we've been doing. We're there. There's nothing else to do now except try to solve this problem. Chris Greer I don't know what Chris Greer is doing. I can't even venture a guess. I don't know where his mind's at, where his head's at. I don't know what he feels about his job. I don't know if he thinks he's got a job. I don't know if he's already kind of checked out and thinking, I'm just going to go into the executive suite and sit there and take my new job with the front office, which I'm pretty sure is what's going to happen to him eventually. I think he's going to get bumped up into the management, aside from general manager, obviously. I think that's what's going to happen to him, and when that happens, he's still going to kind of be in charge. So I don't I don't know what he's thinking. Hopefully, he's thinking I've got to make right with what I said in that end of the year interview. Obviously, we need to address the offensive line. Remember him saying that? This would be a good time, Chris Greer. Do what I just suggested. Go get those 2 free agents. Fix this offensive line relatively inexpensively. And give us the freedom in the draft to address the 2 needs that we have to address in the draft. Which is cornerback and defensive tackle times 2. If anybody knows Chris Greer, please tell him to watch my video. Oh my goodness. It's going to be an interesting year, Dolphins fans. Let me tell you. Man, I'm excited for it. I'm nervous. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's exciting. So many things are always up in the air this time of year. And this year, there's only certain ways we can really work through this stuff, and it's just a matter of, are they actually going to do it or not? I hope they can figure it out. But enough of me. Tell me what you guys think. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe if you haven't already. Help me grow this channel a little bit. I think I'm at 230 subscribers or something. Not a lot, but I'd like to get it up to around 300 before the season starts. That's the goal. That's where I want to be. So if you know anybody who watches, who loves the Dolphins as much as we do, tell them to come check out my channel. If they don't like all the complaining and the hatred and vitriol of some of these YouTube channels, not all of them, there's still some good ones. And if you guys don't know, usually you'll see me in the comments on those channels, the ones that are worth listening to. But check me out as well. Send them my way. Have them check out some videos. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for spending this little bit in this evening with me and listening to me show you guys how I would fix this situation. Hopefully it makes sense. If you disagree, please tell me. I like disagreements too. It helps me become a little more... It helps me to evaluate my own processes sometimes. When people disagree, it's good. When people agree, it's good too, because it lets me know that I'm not too far off of base. So, thanks for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Fins up. Stay hopeful if you can.